Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
One, two, a skidda-didda-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
Perry Crafton is on this week on Minor Wisdom. If I sound a little different, it's because I have a little bit of a different setup yet again, because we have converted an office and our bedroom into an office. So we have two different spaces in our houses now. In our houses, plural. Look at me. In our house, we have two different spaces because we are going to online teaching for at least the first 6 weeks. And so long as our district is in red, so we're in red alert or whatever that is called, we can teach from our home. If we go out of red, we are going to have to go teach from the school. And also, if I sound a little bit under the weather, I'm not under the weather. Every summer I get really horrible allergies, so much so that like 2 or 3 summers ago, I got it so bad that I had walking pneumonia, and I felt like such an old man when that happened, but that was the case. So I apologize. I feel fine. It's just I sound a little bit allergic to some things. And yes, it's a sensitive time, so maybe I'll go get tested. I don't know, man. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but I'm being safe. So I hope everybody else is being safe. I hope those people that are in the southern part of the state of Texas up to the Houston, Galveston area were safe from the sort of mild hurricane, if you will, if there is such thing. But we are used to hurricanes over here in these parts, so we know how to take care of those situations with the winds and the rain and all that kind of stuff. So enough of that babbling. Again, I've got Perry Crafton on. There's a lot of planning going on right now for theater teachers around the state of Texas, and Perry is on the TETA board. He's the president, or he will be soon. He's president-elect, and so there's a lot of planning going on with TETA, getting things all settled in for you guys for that. There's also this week Thespian, the board, will be meeting for their annual retreat to get everything squared away for that. We will have some people in person, some people will be online, a mixture of things. I will be online from the comfort of my new setup, my new office in Houston, Texas, while some of them meet up in Dallas as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of balls rolling, if you will, for getting everything squared away for the school year and getting things to be as normal as possible. And really, I think the goal is for everyone to make sure that the kids, the students, feel as though they're not getting slighted because something isn't happening the way they're used to. Instead of a used to, things change and adapt, and maybe the new will become the norm, and that's okay. I'm going to make a shirt. The new becomes the norm. So anyway, speaking of shirts, I'm wearing one. All right, well, Perry Crafton is coming up next. I really enjoyed this. He's a high-energy guy from Austin Community College and beyond. That's not the only thing that defines him. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's interview with Mr. Perry Crafton.
Well, I have spent the vast majority of my life in West Texas, in the West Texas area, and that's really where it all started. Born in Littlefield, Texas, specifically in a hospital there, but then moved to Lubbock whenever I was 2. I don't remember anything but Lubbock my whole life. My dad is from a very small town called Spur. My mom is from a very small town called Spade, and they just kind of met in the middle and lived in Lubbock. So let's fast forward a whole lot of years to a little bit more for your question. I latched on to theater or acting, being on stage, wanting to be on stage whenever I was in about the 7th grade, because that's like in most schools, probably still. 7th grade is about where drama education can begin. We can take drama classes and stuff in school. And then, of course, that turned into the one-act play contest, and I had absolutely no idea in the world what that was. Even in my freshman year of high school, being in our one act play, I didn't speak a word, but I didn't have a line or anything, but I still really didn't know what it was until, people started getting on stage and getting these awards. And then we won, quote unquote, and which meant we got to get on the bus again later that week and do the play again. And then slowly but surely, I kind of figured out what this was. And like most people within Texas theater, especially Texas theater education, it became my sport. And that's what I really loved about it. And it drew all my focus, it drew all my attention, it fascinates me. And the more I wanted to study drama, became a major in college. It never stopped, and it still does not cease to fascinate me how you can take something, just words exchanged between people on a page that came out of somebody's imagination, and those words on that page and those people and their world can be visually realized. It has never ceased to fascinate me, and it still does to this day. I can still read a play and I can just get so involved in the imaginary and the imagination of the lives of these people, the world they're in, the struggles they go through, but it's still just all on the printed page. But then you give a voice to that with a collection of actors, and then designers come in the room and they give a physical world to that, and clothing to that, and then the lighting to that. It just still never ceases to fascinate me. I still get fascinated in technical Q to Q rehearsals on shows that are my that I have directed. Q to Q is still one of my most favorite parts of the rehearsal process, and I know very few directors might say that, but I'm still in the land of just captivated imagination, whenever it comes to that. So how I got into education is that I wanted to be a high school teacher. A lot of people know this about me because I say it often. I intended on being a high school teacher. I wanted to do the one act play contest. I wanted to win. And I just kind of wanted to be involved in that. But two things happened. A lot of teachers who are thankfully wiser than me and saw down my road farther than I could see down it, said, well, that's just great. I think you do fantastic in one act play. Now, what are you going to do in the fall? And I kind of didn't really have an answer for that, because the only reason I wanted to teach high school was to direct one act play. That's the only reason I wanted to do that. And but then another thing happened that's not theater related, but in my education classes, I went to Sam Houston State University, and in my education classes, the teachers started using the word parent instead of teacher. And I went, I don't really think I want to be anybody's parent. I don't think that's the right fit for me. So fortunately, those two very large red flags were raised for me early enough on that I was like, but I do want to teach. I know I want to do that. And I know I don't want to leave the world of one act play. I still want to be engaged in it if my career is to be in Texas. And so they pointed me out to graduate school and advised me through that. And I got a Master of Fine Arts, fortunately, from the University of Arizona, came back to Texas. And the first thing I did was get to TETA and get on the judges list.
Yep.
And that was 1997, whenever that happened. And so that's kind of how my career got to be, I guess, at its starting point for education. I spent a couple of years teaching at Ranger College for 2 years exactly. Then Royal Brantley scooped me up for West Texas A&M for 12 years, and I think that's where most of the people know me from, is from my time at West Texas A&M, which of course got me back to West Texas. And then in 2010, then I made the move to Austin, and I've been at Austin Community College ever since. So I'm about to start my 10th year there. So that's pretty much kind of how I got to be where I am today in a nutshell, leaving out a
Sure.
lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's every
Yeah,
detail. Yeah.
yeah.
So, and now you're president-elect still, correct?
Yes, I'm president-elect of TETA, and I will rotate into the office of president come this conference, this
Okay.
convention.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. And I know that you and I have gotten to know each other very loosely
Yeah.
because of TETA,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I'm fortunate enough to be invited to some of those morning meetings because of working with exhibits, and I
Yes,
just
that's
kind of
right.
sit back and let Doc Ivans kind of,
Uh-huh.
lead the meetings, and when I'm called upon, I fix my shirt and I say yes sir, no sir. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's been a lot of fun, and so that's how you and I kind of cross paths.
Yeah.
What is one of the biggest differences culturally for you when it comes to choosing a show that you've had to kind of shift your mindset from the West Texas A&M side to the Austin, and you don't even have to be from Texas to know the kind of community that's in Austin. Not
Right. Yeah.
everybody knows the community that's at West Texas A&M.
Right. Yeah.
So what is kind of the biggest shift that you've had to make when it comes to just kind of creating art?
Well, it's kind of funny. There really hasn't been a huge shift. I mean, it didn't necessarily change my taste in scripts and what attracts me to the kind of play that I like. And most people who know me know that I like, modern American interior
Yeah.
realism.
Yeah.
I really, really like that. So I've got a funny story that will come out on the other side of this, but and it's not like we were censored in any way at West Texas A&M. We just had to know our
Sure.
audience.
Yeah. It's just a
We
different
had to
community.
really know our audience. We had to know our two audiences,
Yeah.
our audience of college students and then our audience of general community, which, yes, tended to be older,
Right.
tended to be the Sunday matinee crowd. And what's funny is that I directed One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at West Texas A&M, and it wasn't the language that caused us to get letters. It wasn't the content that caused us to get any audience letters. It was the smoking. So they'll take the cussing. They just don't want anybody to smoke a cigarette while they
Interesting.
cuss.
Yeah.
And so, but then let's see, I did. Uh, I think it was Lend Me a Tenor. And again, same thing. We didn't get letters for the language. We didn't have people walk out because of the content. We had people write letters because of the two female characters who are in their underwear. So again, yeah, as long as you are not in there doing it or smoking a cigarette, then you should probably be
Right.
okay. But what was interesting about that area, that geographical area, and then that university is that we did participate in the American College Theater Festival, and so we would do. Uh, warning label on it, then we were okay, just so the audiences knew. But what we had to do to be very mindful of is to offset that with titles to make sure that within us doing the newer plays, the lesser known plays, the original plays, that we did the traditional Arthur Miller, we did good wholesome musicals and things like that. So that way we kind of appealed to both audiences, I suppose. I'm not really sure if they are still having to do that now, since I've been gone. I'm sure they're still very aware of it. But I've kind of kept up with the season that WT has come out with over the last several seasons, and they're doing some really really good work, really good scripts. So maybe that's not too much of a concern anymore. But in Austin, of course, that dynamic did change. Other kinds of plays to the table. But what's funny is that in my second year at ACC, around that time, I wanted to do tape. And as I was reading through the play, of course, it has aggressive language. It's about an alleged date rape that happened in high school, and of course, they drink beer, they smoke joints, they snort cocaine. And so, knowing that now, I probably could have done this play at West Texas A&M. Probably, in fact, I think it was done at West Texas, but it was done by a student. And so, but what's funny is that whenever I took tape into the ACC department chair, and I said, I think I want to do this. I think it's the kind of play I want to do, and I want to do it for a while. I said, but I need to let you know it does have drug use. I mean, they do smoke joints and they do snort cocaine, and is that going to be okay? And their response was, what are you going to use for coke? I went, oh,
Oh.
okay. Well, all right. So I guess we can do this play. I guess we're not worried about that here. Yeah. So nah, we're not worried about that. Now, like I said, it still hasn't really changed my taste in plays. But what I will say is that, and I still really have a heart for the known titles, the known playwrights, the ones that got us to where we are today in theater. But it's nice to know that basically, if I read a play and I connect with it and I like it and I can see our students doing it, then I can bring it to the table and it will be done. I think that could have also been said for West Texas A&M. I don't want anybody who may be listening to this right now to think that they can't do that. I know they can. It's just that there were some times whenever I felt like a play that I connected to and wanted to do, and I could see students doing it, I still felt like it might have been a little bit too much for the audiences. And I'm like, well, I don't know if West Texas A&M audiences, how this will be received, you know? So maybe that was just my hang up. Maybe I wouldn't have encountered a problem. I doubt if I would have encountered a problem. But that's kind of that's the nicest thing about here.
Did you ever get that feel, you know, when you're a kid and you watch that first like kissing scene with your parents and you don't know how they're going to react, and you kind of look over and, you know, they're wondering if they're going to cover your eye, or you're wondering if they're going to cover your eyes. Is that kind of how you felt with the West Texas, some of the older crowd? And I asked that only because with my background, when I was in my touring days, the crowds that came to Straight No Chaser shows were typically older, and so they would sometimes there would be some embarrassing moments that these 10 guys would kind of put out there. And I would just look over at people and be like, I feel like I'm with my grandparents right now. Like I'm kind of embarrassed to just be in this room because I don't know how they feel.
There were times where that happened, and you know, and appropriately enough, it was usually on Sunday matinees. Well, I can't stand matinees, to tell you the truth. You know, I never liked performing in them in college. You know,
it's different energy.
I mean, my gosh, it was the Hangover performance. You know, you always closed on a matinee too, and that final little memory of that play was just so wasn't your best, you know. And so our crowds were very small at that time. This might have changed by now. 10 years is a long time. But at that time, our Sunday crowds were very small. I mean, even whenever you require students to see a play and write a paper over it, we'd always call closing days procrastination Sundays. And but even then, we weren't getting the crowds at that time. And so I actually lobbied to not do away with the matinee entirely, but to kind of pick and choose when we if we're going to do a very popular Tennessee Williams play, we need to end the matinee. But those are known just for some of those reasons. But what's interesting about Austin is that Sunday, that is a very popular day for all audiences of all age groups to come see plays. We have our largest audiences, and yes, some of them are students, so along the procrastination Sunday lines, but still, even in the general Austin community, we see we can see some of our larger audiences on Sunday. So we do still have matinees here at ACC, and I don't think we're going to do away with them. But it's interesting.
What do you
Well, and
attribute?
Austin's more open to see theater, of course.
Yeah. I mean, is that what you attribute it to? It's just there's just a larger kind of
Yeah,
thirst for it.
yeah, I think so. I think so. And there's just a whole lot of it here.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's
Yeah.
a lot of it. And so that may be a lot of what I will attribute it to. And people will leave their house to see something that they don't know. They want something new. They want to see what a new title,
Sure.
a new playwright, something like that. So yeah, Austin's really good that way. They're very loyal that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're recording this a few weeks before it comes out. So the answer to this question could easily change by the time this podcast becomes
Sure.
public.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
said, are there some unique, interesting ways that you guys are trying to approach the next school year with performances and with entertaining those crowds and not losing them?
Yeah, we're still talking about that. I think that we, at least as of today, I think that we've pretty much taken our fall productions off the calendar, off the table. I just don't think we're going to mess with it. And that is somewhat COVID related, but ACC is in an exciting time because we are getting new facilities. And so uh, and so the construction of that, we've had to wait on that.
Yeah.
The construction did get behind just because A, construction gets behind, and B, the virus
Right.
kind of made construction get behind as well. But I think that we're going to be able to move in during the fall semester, so we should be able to salvage a couple of spring productions.
Good.
So we hope to go back live in the spring. I've noticed just recently, and maybe I've been under a rock, but I've only just recently noticed that some theater companies and schools are actually going to rehearse and perform live without an audience
Right.
to video and then stream. We have not yet talked about that.
Yeah.
We have talked about perhaps monologue showcases
Yeah.
or things like that that can be on Facebook Live or Zoom or something to give. Yes, it would be to give our audiences still letting them know that we're still present. But really, like most theater programs, I'm sure, Blake, it's going to be because of the
Yeah.
students need that outlet.
Yeah.
They really are just going to need that performance outlet.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, it's one of those interesting things is there's, I guess more recently, intimacy coaching has been a more popular type of
yeah.
directing, or at least a new kind of line item in the
Mhm.
program as an
Right.
intimacy
Yeah.
coach, whereas before it was just the director. Now it's a specialized person.
Yeah.
That alone is just changing too,
Yeah. Yes.
because how do you coach that? How do you even do a show that involves two actors that have to get near each other?
Yeah. Precisely.
So it'll be interesting to see how it goes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think we're all in that boat together.
Yeah,
So
and fortunately, we're creative.
yes,
Fortunately,
most
so
of
at
us.
least every single person, I hope,
Yeah,
listening to this
yeah.
knows that they have that going for them.
I, s-
We're
I saw
creative.
I saw something today pop up, and I Facebook is weird because when you think something, for some reason Facebook knows that you're thinking of it.
Yes.
You don't even have to say it out loud.
Yes.
It's really crazy. But anyway, there's this. Oh man, it's kind of like a bubble, but it's more like a cylinder that
Mhm.
you put your body in, and it keeps you all protected. And that's what popped up on and it popped up on a few teachers' pages because they would post about it. But
Yeah.
I guess there are a lot of teachers that are trying to figure out ways to keep themselves protected with still having a face-to-face interaction. So
Yeah. Exactly.
it'll be fun. But again, once this thing comes out, no telling what TEA or what anybody, what our governor says
Yeah.
by that time. So let's flip to some fun things. So
Yeah.
were you ever an athlete in high school or even before that?
No, never was. I
Did you
mean,
have an
little
interest?
league, T-ball, just that
Okay.
standard. That's hardly anything. No, I never was. I didn't really have a liking to it,
So
and that had a whole lot to do with the specific circumstances at my high school.
Sure.
But still, I just never really had a
So
draw to it or a liking to it.
did the one act play world teach you how to be a team player?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it did. And then, of course, along with that, at most Texas schools, and especially the smaller ones, well, then, speech goes along with it.
Yeah.
And so I did prose interpretation. That was my event
Yeah.
in high school for speech. And so that also taught me, how to be competitive. Um, and then when I play, of course, being a team player, all of that stuff. So all of those principles of the spirit of competition and all of that stuff, those were taught to me specifically in the theater program, a little bit in band as well, because I was in band
Okay.
too. And I mean, we started out in my early years of school, we were terrible, and then we got a new director midway through my high school career, and then we became quite good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What'd you
I
play?
went to Lubbock Cooper High School, by
Okay.
the way. And I say this is my joke all the time, is that I went to Lubbock Cooper whenever they were poor and lost. And now they're rich and they win. Because Lubbock is
Yeah.
growing south. So
Yeah.
all of the tax dollars are pouring into the Cooper School District. So
Sure.
yeah.
What did you play?
In band,
Yeah.
the trumpet.
Okay. Can you
Yeah.
still play or no?
I don't think so,
Yeah.
dude.
You lose the lips.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I still remember the valve finger positions for
Yeah.
the fight song, and maybe even the national anthem. But dude, it's about I can air
Do
play
you
the
own a trumpet?
trumpet. I did. I had my high school trumpet
Okay.
for a long time, but I only recently donated it.
Okay.
Only recently though.
Yeah, my grandfather played the trumpet and started smoking cigars when he was 16 so that he could
Yeah.
look older to get into jazz bars. And
Yeah.
I have his trumpet
Yeah.
stored away,
Wow, that's pretty
but
sweet.
I am no musician. But yeah, trumpets are he played for a while, but yeah, that's one of those ones that's deceivingly difficult to play because of its it's only got 3 valves.
I know. Yeah, that's right.
But
That's why I joke that I'll airplay the trumpet.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's anybody can do that.
There
Well,
you
that's
go.
fun. What is the most proud one act play that you were a part of in high school?
Oh man. Well, I think it would have to be the last one. In my senior year, I was fortunate enough to go to state twice.
Okay.
In my 4 years of doing one act play. My sophomore year, which would have been '87, and then my senior year, which would have been 1989. And
I'm glad you didn't say like 1992 to imply that you were held back a few years. But anyway,
yeah, that's
continue.
right.
So
Yeah, so now everybody can calculate.
yeah,
Okay,
so
but,
89. Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, and I guess it was that one, and it's not because we succeeded the most. We got second place that year at state. So it was the play that was, by the luck of the crapshoot of the one act play and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Then I think it's not because it won the most, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It was because we overcame the most. I mean, we didn't really have any expectations. Zilch, my sophomore year, the first time the school went to state. It wasn't the first time the school went to state. It was the first time the school had gone to state in a while. So nobody in the recent alumni remember or were a part of a state qualifying one act play company. And so it was the first time, and the directors, Jay and Pam Brown, they had been there for a while, and they hadn't been to state in a while. They were the only directors who had ever taken Cooper to state, and they were still there, kind of waiting to get back. And so in 1987, we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. But man, the occasion just got the best of us. I know nowadays there's ranking, but back then there was not ranking. But we knew that if there was an 8th place, we got it that year. We just knew. But I think that, and so we had higher hopes going into the next year. But, again, luck of the draw and the judges and things like that, we didn't get out of area. But then senior year, we did get back to state and we got second place, like I said. But I think the reason that it was the proudest, it was because we overcame the most.
Mm-hmm.
We were set on getting back. We knew we could. And we did. And then when we got there, we knew we could come into the top 3.
Yeah.
We knew we could. And we didn't know the other 7 plays, but we didn't need to. We knew we could because we were just that gelled and that tight of a group.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the proudest moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
With
so.
one act play now, do you ever see you up there? Like when you go see shows?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
I really do. Especially whenever State was at Bass.
Yeah. Sure.
And I know, a lot of people have performed on that stage, and I know a lot of people haven't at the
Yeah.
same time. But once you've done it, then you just remember. You remember it. Yeah, yeah. And I see myself up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that one part of your decision to come to Austin was based on kind of your memories of being at one act play when you were in high school? Do you think that
Well,
kind of
no,
helped?
well, not specifically, just because uh, personal reasons are what really prompted the move to Austin.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I had applied for ACC and
Nostalgia.
got the job. Yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, my first year in Austin, I didn't teach at all.
Okay.
So I kind of left West Texas to come here, for personal reasons, not private reasons,
Right.
just personal reasons.
Sure.
And but I will say that um, I have always wanted to live here.
Right.
And so when I was here in my first year, and that first state had rolled around, and I was able to just get in my car and go
Yeah.
to it and not have to drive 7 hours to see it, and not have to. What was really weird is I wouldn't have to stay in a hotel. That was
Yeah.
really you know but to have that, I mean, just like there's a whole lot in Austin that's just in your backyard. But whenever you're like looking at in the one act play world, well, that's just another thing that's in your backyard.
Yeah.
And that you feel there was a little bit more of a connection to it,
Right.
that again, that I felt like I was very, very lucky, very blessed to be able to be here,
Right.
and to be closer to it, to participate in it in different ways. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was
I was Luis made me uh, David Stevens contest manager assistant
okay.
for the lower conferences at Nicola
Yeah.
one year. And so now I got to experience it all backstage, and I got to see what the companies went through a whole entire 28-hour day
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
of one act play.
Yeah.
And I got to experience it on the backstage end. And dude, that was fascinating. That thing is a freaking machine.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I got to a couple years I did the faculty crew, and seeing it from that perspective was
Yeah.
eye-opening. It also helped me as an educator
Oh yeah.
because you get, I'm taking notes about how some of these directors are some very militaristic with their approach, and then
Yes.
some not at all. So,
Some not at all.
that was my introduction to oh my gosh, why am I forgetting her name? Cardboard. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now. Old age. At 38 years old. But what is did you disappoint your family when you did not go to tech?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Mandy Connor, by the way. Anyway, so
Oh, okay,
continue.
okay. Yeah. No, I don't think I did.
Okay.
Because my parents were they were pretty supportive
Okay.
of what I wanted to do, and getting a college education was the
The goal.
single most important thing.
Yeah.
Now, might they have had some other ideas of subjects for me to major in? Oh, most assuredly
Sure.
so. Theater was not anything that they would have selected at all.
Right.
But the college education was very, very, very important. So with them seeing that I had latched onto this, with them seeing that I was serious about it, with them seeing that I was getting scholarships from it,
Yeah.
and that it could pave the way for me to get my college education, whether or not they thought I was going to make a career out of it or continue to pursue it.
Mhm.
They knew that it was my ticket to college. Now, I think college would have been, they would have afforded college for me and my sister anyway. It would not have mattered.
Right.
But I think that my mother especially knew that I was going to leave. She
Right.
knew I was not going to stay in Lubbock. She knew that. I didn't even have to tell her that. It wasn't even like a junior or senior year thing that she saw. I think she knew that I was going to be a little bit more independent whenever I was 3. You know, now I
Sure.
don't know if she knew I was going to leave to go to school when I was 3, but she saw that about me, and
Yeah.
I remember her saying that too. Um, but no, I didn't want to stay in Lubbock. I wanted to. I mean, okay, so I'm gonna tell you where I went to school, and I already told you one
Yeah.
place, but I did start out at a junior college as well. But for me to say I wanted to get out of Lubbock and see the world, well, when people say phrases like that, then they like if they're going to stay in Texas, then they want to hit Dallas or
Right.
Austin or the big time. I chose Tyler, Texas, to see the world
Yeah.
at Tyler Junior College, and it really was one of the best decisions I've ever made. Not just to leave Lubbock, but that school period
Yeah.
was one of the best decisions I ever made. David Crawford's still on faculty there, and it was a fantastic place,
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. And then went to Sam Houston, so Huntsville. So now I'm still seeing
Yep.
the world.
Still, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still seeing the big world, but for me, it was really more about just getting out on my own.
Right.
I was never really attracted to, like an LA or a New York. I never really was attracted to going out and trying to make it professionally.
Right.
Now, my MFA program at the University of Arizona in Tucson was a professional actor training program. And a lot of my classmates have had New York and LA and Chicago ambitions,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them have fulfilled those ambitions. I see a lot of my classmates pop up on commercials and television shows and movies and things like
Sure.
that. So it's kind of interesting to watch television because out of nowhere somebody I know is going to pop up, which is nice. And I'm starting to see some former students pop up on television, and I will tell you that is particularly
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But anyway. But I just kind of wanted to be out on my own,
Right.
that's really what was more important to me than anything, is getting out there and doing this on my own, by myself,
Right.
and finding my way through it.
Sure.
And fortunately, I had very, very supportive parents to get that college education, and they paid every dime in order for that to happen.
Sure. Yeah.
So.
Now, and I've got a couple more questions. I don't want to keep you too long because I know you are a busy man, even in your COVID gear.
I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. That next
Yeah.
Netflix series starts in 5
Yeah.
minutes.
Right. I know. Right. So, but that's funny. What are you watching right now? Are you watching
dude,
anything?
okay. My wife and I, we are all about crime shows. We just
Okay,
watch
yeah.
true crime like all over
Okay.
the place.
Dexter?
Yeah,
Did you
the
watch
show
Dexter?
true crime, but also all the
Yeah.
genre
Yeah.
true crime.
Yeah.
That's really kind of that's what we're
Yeah.
about.
Dexter is on my list. I haven't watched it yet. So, but I'm
yeah.
a crime person too. But
Yeah.
so one thing I noticed is you went to the home of the Bearcats, and then the home of the Wildcats, right? So you went to, I don't know
Yes.
what Tyler's,
Apaches at the time.
well,
I think they're
then
still the Apaches. Yeah.
the Apache Cats. Well, just for
Yeah.
sake of
Okay.
themes right now. Yeah, sure. But was Maureen Mack at Sam when you were there?
Yes, she was.
Oh my gosh. So that's
Yes,
crazy.
she was.
Yeah, Carolyn Boone is my Maureen Mack now, because Carolyn Boone has been, was at UH for just ever. And then McIntyre was at Sam forever. My wife is a Sam grad, so and I spent a semester at Sam. Sam was my Tyler Community College for me,
all right,
like,
cool.
in our comparison. But that's funny. She was such an influence to so many people in good ways and in bad. But, it's such an interesting story. But I digress about that. What is it about Arizona that made you go there? Was it the program? Had you applied to a few places or no?
Well, interestingly enough, so I have to answer that question by backing up a little bit.
Sure.
So fortunately, I was introduced to TETA. This is going to sound like a TETA plug, and I guess
you're allowed to.
Take it for
you're kind of allowed to.
I was introduced to TETA through my high school directors. In fact, the only convention that was ever held or will ever be held in Lubbock, I was in high school for. So I was a student worker at that convention. And so it wasn't at this Lubbock convention that this happened, but when I became a senior, then I think I went to the auditions in San Antonio. I think that was the year that I graduated, or I was ready to go through TETA auditions. And so Tyler was one of like 3 schools to call me back. And then, so I went there. They gave me a scholarship and I went there. And then 2 years later, I go back to TET auditions, and Sam Houston, along with another couple of conservatories, call me back. Well, I go to Sam Houston, you know, and so now I'm answering your question. You can probably know what the answer is.
Yeah, right.
I go to ERTA auditions in my senior year at Sam Houston, and whenever I get there, University of Arizona was the only one that gave me an interview.
Yeah.
But dude, I passed that screening. So at least I got to the schools, you
Yeah.
know, I passed the freaking screening. And I think that that was like one of the most, like, I keep forgetting about that one. If you were to ask me, and please don't, but if you were to ask me my top 10 accomplishments of my whole entire life, I think getting out of ERTA screening
Right.
has got to be
On
that
that
list
list.
somewhere. That was not easy. It was intimidatingly terrifying.
Yeah.
But hey, I got through it, and I got to see the schools, and Arizona interviewed me,
Yeah.
and I did check out their program, and yes, and I did get, you know, a fellowship and a teaching
Right.
assistantship to go there. So to answer your question, the reason I kind of picked the schools that I went to is because they're the ones that gave me a scholarship.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
I
picked
mean,
you.
yeah. I mean, we only had the internet back then. Then I could have, you know, researched the schools a little bit better. I probably still would have picked them, but at
Yeah.
least, you know, it's just different now. You can examine an entire school
Yeah.
from your
And Arizona's no slouch by any means.
right.
So,
Oh yeah. The fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic program out there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
one of the things I like about Arizona's its proximity to now, you know, you might say, well, yeah, it's still a drive to get to Texas, but it's rather close to Texas. You just
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
got to get through the newer Mexico.
Yeah,
And then
one of my best friends in the world was going to school at UTEP,
Yeah.
and so I would just
Yeah,
stop
it's
at
not
El
far.
Paso, which is weird because it was halfway.
Yes, exactly.
Weird, I know. And but I would, you know, I'd stay with him and all
then,
this stuff.
yeah.
So at least I had a way to break.
Did you
that.
ever make
At
your way?
Arizona, dude? I went into now. Tyler and Sam gave me a great education. They
Yeah.
really did. You know, I don't regret an ounce of it. But it wasn't. But I think that my advice is whenever I would tell my seniors who were wanting to get into MFA programs, you know, coming out of West Texas A&M, and as I was coaching them to shoot as high as you can in those MFA programs, because you never know, you just never
Yeah.
know. But they were talking to me about, well, do you know the quality of this program, the quality of that program? And no, I don't. But
Yeah.
what I do know is this: the best thing that Arizona did, their training was so rigorous, and it was so intense that it made me question, how important is this master's degree?
Sure.
You know, like, oh man, I don't know if I can make it, all that stuff. So really, I got to reevaluate how important this is. And no, it is very important.
Yeah.
And if you are getting into a grad program in which you kind of breeze through it,
Yeah.
you'll get the piece of paper that has a master's degree on it. But what happened to me is that I felt I had gaps in my process. Dude, I didn't even know I had a process. But everybody has a process. And so, but I knew I had gaps in that process. And Arizona, those professors, they exposed them, they exposed my habits, and they started filling in those gaps.
Sure.
Well, they started teaching me how to fill in those gaps. You know, they started teaching me how to recognize that in my own process, and to equip me with the tools to fill in those gaps myself.
Right.
So one of the things that people that know me know that I love acting coaching the most.
Mhm.
It is the single most valuable and fun and rewarding thing that I do. I'm in my element, and the world just goes away
Right.
whenever it is me and that other actor. I mean, it just fades away. It evaporates.
Yeah.
I lose all awareness of time whenever I really get into that element. And but that's what I kind of want to pass on, is that if I'm with a kid in a clinic for 15 minutes, or if I have a student in my class for 15 weeks, I want to try my very best to give to them those lessons and equip them with those tools that I was equipped with in that graduate program. That's really what I want to do, you know. And through that, that student realizes that they're better than they thought. They're more they have more creativity and more imagination at their availability than they thought, and that they can even recognize more of their own value as a human being,
Right.
because as they work this character who is struggling to find their own value, you know. So that's what I love.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
When
And
did you
so
when did you figure that out?
at West Texas A&M,
Okay.
whenever I was in my second year there, and I didn't start out to be an acting coach. I didn't really, you know, you don't go to school to learn how to be an acting coach, but it's just something that kind of came to me through how I was interacting with coaching
Sure.
my students. I just wanted to teach classes and direct plays. That's what I thought I wanted to do.
Hmm.
But if you were to like shred all of that down, and if I could take any single aspect of what I do in all the facets that drama people have in their career, and I could make a good, decent, comfortable living off of one thing, I will take acting coaching any day of the week.
Well, that's good to know. That's
Yeah.
why you're here.
Yeah, it's what I
So
love. It's what I love the most.
I want to wrap up on this question, and
Okay.
hopefully my dog stopped. I keep looking over because I keep seeing my daughter in the window in her full yellow Power Rangers outfit outside doing something, and I don't know what
Yeah.
it is, but
Yeah.
it's 100 degrees, and she's in this long. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I want to wrap up on this. So for some reason, there are students that listen to this podcast, former students of mine, students of other teachers. That isn't the audience that I necessarily thought I was going to get, but it's an audience that I ended up getting. So I want to ask you this: at a community college, I'm sure you have some kids that have some resentment because they feel they should be going to, UT or a university.
Right. Sure.
What do you tell the kids that the first 2 years, they don't get where they want to go, but they eventually embrace and find value in where they are? What do you tell the kid that is just kind of not allowing that to happen, or not necessarily embracing, or down on themselves because, oh my gosh, here I am at a community college doing what I want to do, but it's not where I want to be? Does that make sense?
Yeah. But it's not, yeah, it's not in the context necessarily of how they wanted to do it. So yeah, I get that, and I get those students from time to time. I'm sure other community colleges get this just a little bit more than Austin, not just because we're Austin. It's just because, to my surprise, and maybe it shouldn't be to my surprise, but it was much to my surprise, whenever I would talk to a typical freshman class of actors at ACC, I would ask them about the one act play contests and how many of them did that in high school. And I didn't get very many hands. So not a lot of kids are coming to ACC out of high schools or out of one act play programs. But we do get kids that do come into our department, whether or not they're drama majors, it doesn't matter, but they do have other ambitions. They wanted UT, but something happened in their paperwork or in their audition that made them come to ACC to start with. But frustrated, or if they're particularly kind of down on themselves, I'll pull them into my office and I'll kind of talk to them about what their goals are. I mean, you can imagine these conversations happen probably quite a bit. And I'll just kind of talk to them about what their goals are. What do they expect? What they, where did they think they were going to be? How did they imagine that going? You know? And then, so then of course I'll talk about training, you know, and it's about the training that you receive. And that I know that if they open themselves up to it, then they will know that they're about the foundation and the groundwork there. Now I'm going to continue to help them to get to that goal of getting into a major university's program. I'm going to do everything I can to help them out to do that. But I also tell them that maybe it's time to really take a look at something that's bigger and broader for yourself. You know, I know that you might want to go to a school like a UT Austin because of the name, because of the tradition, because of all of the notoriety that goes along with it. And there's nothing in the world wrong with that. It's just that look at what you want to do and where you want to go with you, not the physical institution of where you want to go, but look at where you want your life to go. What is it that you see yourself doing? Now, let me help you find another school that is going to help you continue that. Let me give you the best of what I can give you here in the time that I've got you at ACC or a school like ACC. But now let's keep talking and let's think bigger and broader. And if you need to stay in Texas, we'll help you stay in Texas. But there's a lot of universities in Texas, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have incredible theater training. But now you're talking about faculty and student relations and the kind of program that they have. And are you going to fit, in that program?
Right.
And so fortunately, I still feel like I am connected enough to the universities in Texas and enough of the programs and the faculty there especially to where I can know that this particular kid who's frustrated right now is going to find a flourishing training program and acting or theater career at this school they never even really ever thought about.
Right.
And if you can try to alter that mindset just a little bit, that does tend to help.
Yeah.
Just to see, just to have them look at a broader. Well, I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to have people that looked farther down my road than I could see. Well, now I think that that's kind of my job, is to look farther down their road than they can see right now.
Minor wisdom.